They say that some journeys change you forever, and everyone will have a life-changing journey at some point in his or her life. And maybe your moment have already passed, maybe you're going to be facing another one, or maybe you haven't faced it yet and you still have time. But this video is the story of how my pursuit of master's degree in Poland changed not only my career, but also my life. But before getting into the journey itself, I need to tell you how it started and the why. It was 2020, and I was studying in the UK peacefully and pursuing my industrial year. I was trying to get some job for my industrial year, but there was a pivotal event that happened that changed my life forever, and I think it changed many more lives that I don't know: the pandemic. Pandemic was the biggest hit for my career, and I would say to all of my life. And the thing is that at first it was not taken seriously, but later on, university shut down, and then the whole country was closed and so on. And it was March 2020 that I had to fly back home to Azerbaijan. But back then I was thinking that it will still end really fast. I would be back in May for my final exams and so on. But it never happened, and it was apparently a long exile for me. And it was at that time that I developed certain interests such as YouTube, podcasts, website building and so on. And I had so much free time during the summer that I had to learn something. I couldn't stop myself from being free. I learned some data analysis, I learned digital skills such as audio, video editing, WordPress website building, and most important, digital marketing. And I learned more and more about it that really put me into the current place that I'm here, it made me change my pathway because I realized I'm interested in a totally different thing, not in international relations and economics. I went back to UK for my final year in September of 2020, but unfortunately most of the lessons were online, so we weren't going to the lectures, and that's when I realized that I didn't want to be a politician or an ambassador anymore. But it was my dream for many years. Nearly since my childhood, I really wanted to be in politics, and I was really aspiring to be a good one, really good one. But again, one free summer changed everything because I learned different skills. And fast forward to 5-6 months later, I was already looking for a university in Europe just to study over there, and of course not in international relations. And I was already working in a financial company, at first as a business analyst and as a digital marketing specialist. And it was that time that I kind of developed this interest for marketing and also for data analysis, that I can unite them together and become kind of marketing analyst at some point in the future. When I was choosing for the countries to study, I was either thinking about Italy or Poland, but at the end I decided to stay with Poland because it was much cheaper to live in Poland. And when I was searching for the universities, I came across Kosminski University, and I decided to choose that. I was reading some reviews, asking from the people and so on. So I decided to choose, applied for it, did all this boring stuff, is documentation and assessment and so on. And then I got into the plane and went to Poland after getting my visa. I arrived in Poland in September 2021, and when I was in the taxi going to the apartment that I was gonna be living in for a year, all I saw was the socialist buildings. And I probably told this in my previous video how similar it was to Baku, to Azerbaijan, to my home country, because Azerbaijan and Poland are sharing the same past because they have both been socialist countries. And even though there have been a lot of new ones while I was growing up, I still saw a lot of those old buildings around, and I didn't feel like a stranger when I was in Poland because it was giving me the socialist vibes. But one problem was that I was going to be a stranger because language barrier was real. I was even asking this lady from the agency that I was renting the house from, that what's the famous language here, a famous foreign language, and she said Ukrainian. And that was the point I realized I'm screwed. Because English language wasn't going to help me only. And you probably know the story as well, that in my second day I tried to go and get SIM card and transportation tickets, but it was not possible because, again, of the language barriers, and also they were selling SIM cards on Saturday, which I didn't know why. Not other people had this issue, but I had it. And basically at the end of that issue, when I was coming back home, I was passing from the park and I felt frustrated and tired, defeated, and humbled, most importantly, because up until that point I was thinking that, oh, I'm ready for everything, I can live abroad easily, because come on, I was living abroad for 3 years already, so what could go wrong, right? But at that point I sat down on that park bench and I started questioning myself that what am I doing here? Why did I even decide to drift away from my traditional pathway? Who will employ me here with only speaking English? And these were fair questions because it was not my expectation. And one reason I chose Poland was because I saw a lot of people getting employed because of its employment opportunities. But seeing people just speaking Polish was discouraging for me. And at that point, I knew that there was a challenge that I needed to face, but there was also a possibility that I could fail because I challenged a lot of people while I was changing my pathway, even my parents. I even remember some of my followers criticizing me deeply for my bold decisions for education because when I was applying for bachelor degree, I had the chance to go and study law with a scholarship, with full scholarship, but I decided not to. I went to international relations. Then I drifted away from international relations in digital marketing. It was all bold decisions. I was getting criticized like crazy. And all I thought at this moment was that I should be successful. And I rose from my seat and I knew I needed to be successful. I went back home and I didn't know if I was going to be successful or not. There was a possibility of failure, but I was going to be successful at some point. Another disappointing thing for me was when I visited the university for the first time, because when I was in the university, I was expecting like such buildings, such like big libraries and so on, because Kozminski is a really good place in Poland. But the thing is that I was comparing my expectations to the UK because I had really big space of study in Exeter. I had like big library, big study spaces, like really big university and campus. But the thing is that seeing like small library in Kozminski, like small university, it was really discouraging for me and it was killing my motivation. But then the lessons have started, so I got to know the professors. I saw like they were really chill and they were teaching it perfectly well, and quality of the lessons were really nice. So I was getting used to it, and I just said I'm not going to compare with the UK anymore. I'm going to agree with whatever it is, and I want to get employed as soon as possible. And I knew that, just studying is not going to get me anywhere. So I started applying for the jobs because that's what also I was lacking in the UK, that I didn't have enough experience. So I started surfing on LinkedIn, in my past trip back to my house. I sent out few applications and one of them was Procter& and Gamble. And the thing is that they rejected my application back in the UK when I was applying for industrial year. And this time I didn't want to have the same kind of result. But again, I received a message that I should do some kind of assessment. I did that assessment, but the thing is that I did really something stupid, that I did that assessment in the middle of a lesson. Like I should pay really good attention to that assessment, but I still did it in the middle of a lesson. I was listening to the professor and doing it at the same time. But I still somehow passed it. Then I got the interview stage. I passed the interviews as well. Then one day after the second interview on Friday, I was sitting in the lecture and I saw my phone buzzing. And I couldn't take it because I was in the lecture. Then I left after a few minutes. I called her back, this HR lady, and she said, "Oh, you got the job. We are going to be sending you the contract. Do you agree?" I was like, "Perfect, it is." I was applying for a managerial internship. And this managerial internship was really important for me because it really taught me a lot of things. In my internship, I learned a lot of things that I will be talking about this in a separate video. But, this was a pivotal moment for me in the Poland. Because once I got into the job, all my discomfort just disappeared. I realized I don't feel this pressure of speaking Polish or, failure or such things, because I found the job and it was less than a month that I found the job. And it was such a big thing for me because I was like, oh my God, I was actually employable all the time. I was kind of underestimating myself. And the thing is that they only required English, so it was really easy. And I'm going to be honest, I can't thank enough for the company for recruiting me because, that recruitment, that job opportunity was the thing that really prevented me from being in depression. And I would say, being more confident about myself and my skills. Okay, so about the master's degree. First year was really challenging, but some subjects were boring as my first year was focusing generally on management. But second year was only on digital marketing, so that's what I really liked the most. And only problem was that COVID regulations were taken in the second year, so I wasn't able to attend the lessons online only. So it was problematic to my schedule with work and so on. But I exchanged a few emails with the vice dean of the faculty, and he was able to grant me access to the part-time studies as well. So while I was still attending some of my lessons with full-time, I was attending some of them with part-time students, and it was absolutely fine. It worked perfectly well. But the only thing is that I had to sacrifice some of my weekends. Imagine working for 5 days, then on Saturday and Sunday you also need to go to the studies, at 8 o'clock in the morning. It was really bad. But to be honest, this was not the greatest challenge because I always like the hardship and so on. I always get to challenge myself. But the thing is that I didn't touch my dissertation. I didn't work on my dissertation during the summer because I had some personal issues. I didn't want to do my dissertation up until kind of last moment because I knew that that's how my brain is functioning. And it wasn't March that I tried to do it, but I got sick with COVID. Then in April, I got sick again. But I did not stop, and it was 1 month and a half to my deadline, but I was rushing like crazy. I was trying to finish my dissertation as soon as possible, but it was really hard, to be honest, because at some point I was really frustrated, like trying to get all the mind maps, all the, like reading dozens of articles and writing them as soon as possible. So it was non-stop writing process as well. And the thing is that at the end, I mean, at some point actually, I even had a problem with my eyesight that I had to like take rest for 2 days because I wasn't looking after myself very well and I wasn't sleeping very well. But at the end, I was able to get it done, and I was able to like, I was able to submit it on time. So 1 month and a half, I did the whole dissertation, whole thesis, which was interesting. When the day of defense came, I just wore my formal attire. I went there and I got my highest grade for my dissertation. And final grade was 4.5 across all the subjects, and to be honest, I was satisfied with that result. I wasn't aiming for 5 because I was already like focusing on studies, like full-time work, full-time studying, and I was creating content, and on top of that I co-founded a professional coaching company at that time, and now it was doing pretty well and it still does pretty well. So I had no regrets or any kind of disappointment that I didn't get the highest grade, because I didn't care, because I was already successful. I should also mention the fact that I was also applying to PhD, like during this submission date and defense date, I was already applying for PhD and I had only 10 days to do that. And I got accepted to PhD. And the thing is that this was the really important point. But this was the story, but what about the learnings? What did it teach me? My journey of masters is not extraordinary, but the thing is that it wasn't like I was conquering the vast lands or making great inventions and so on. But the most important thing is that it was still a journey that was worth talking about. And at that time, we are living at the time that even the simplest things are valuable and important. And the important thing is how many of the people are actually going through such hard ways and also, taking work all at the same time. Many people would like to take it in a linear way, that I'll do this, I'll do this, I'll do this, and that's how it's going to be. But usually, like, you should not do the life in this way. You should try to take on more challenges, and that's my mindset. So for me, it was rather a self-discovery journey. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I learned this culture in Poland, I learned this and that. No. And usually what we see is just this homesick stories, or someone is being really emotional and so on. That's not the case for me. Like, I got used to this kind of, studying abroad and so on. And the thing is that many people are just like fearing the fact that they need to leave their comfort zone, they need to leave their safe zone. But the thing is that if you don't leave your safe zone, you are not able to grow. I know some people who are not able to leave their country because they have their friends over there, they don't want to be separated. But at the same time, it doesn't let them grow. So it's just an example. I'm not criticizing anyone here, but it's just an example of how people are really sticking to like safe zones. They don't want to divert from their traditional pathway and so on. And another thing is that usually people see on Instagram that, oh, people studying abroad are enjoying their lifetime. Oh, they go to this country, they go do this and that. It's not only about that. There are people who want to grow. There are people who want to enjoy. And I respect them both. And I'm from the first group and I cannot do anything. The thing is that I received a lot of criticism when I was changing my traditional pathway. And I was receiving that criticism from the people who wanted to be in the safe zone, who didn't want to cause discomfort to themselves. But the thing is that I don't feel any kind of hatred towards the criticism or any kind of insults that was coming through. I know that many people's brains are programmed to fear changing paths, fear the instability. But for me, it's a different case. I like to be flexible. I like to learn more and more things, because what I know is that whatever we learn at the university is going to be obsolete in a few years' time, or maybe even a few months. For example, I studied digital marketing. I know that just studying digital marketing doesn't make me employable. You know how when the pandemic was first starting, professors and everyone was struggling with the technology, just trying to turn on some Teams or Zoom call, they're not able to open their camera, get their mic working, and there are still such problems going on. So that's how the university is as well. The university is really late with adapting to a lot of things, and that's why you should try to learn more and more to make yourself like employable. And that's why I also don't attach my knowledge only to the university, because university alone isn't gonna make me employable. I need to learn different soft skills, do this, do that, to make me more and more employable. There are skills that you don't learn in the university that you have to learn all by yourself, and that's absolutely fine. And to get into the workplace, you need all these things. And to be honest, I don't even regret leaving my previous studies, because it's not like I'm losing the knowledge. I carry that knowledge with me. And You can absolutely specialize in something, but if you're blind to other things, you are not developing yourself perfectly well. Remember, capitalism told us to specialize in one thing to be more and more productive, not because we should be blind and stick to the one thing all at the same time. Imagine you're drinking water but not breathing. Imagine you're breathing or not drinking water. How can you survive based on only, let's say, one of your needs? You cannot. Simply, that's the same kind of thing. So I'm kind of asking myself how a person with narrow mind can survive without knowing that there's a vast amount of knowledge out there. And I think this is the question that you should ask yourself to be able to discover and to understand what are your needs. Well, that was all. There is maybe more to talk about each of these topics that we are talking about here, and it will require maybe different videos to talk about. And I will try to make more videos frequently on these topics and try to share more from my experience. But most importantly, don't forget to share this video with your friends and show them what kind of experiences are available in the world. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and please share your opinions in the comments. I would love to read all of them one by one and answer to them. So, see you in the next videos.